truth arise, voices bold, faith alive, relevant words for such a time, empowered hearts, aligned in Christ.
Hello and welcome back to Unmute the Mic. Today we're talking about stop asking for permission to use your voice. And there comes a point when you have to ask yourself a difficult question. Who am I waiting on to give me permission? Permission to speak, permission to lead, permission to start, permission to change your mind, permission to set a boundary, permission to share an idea, permission to walk into a different room, permission to say, this is what I want. Many people are not waiting because they lack ability. They're waiting because somewhere along the way, they learn to look outside of themselves for confirmation before they move. So today we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what happens when you stop waiting for permission and start taking responsibility for your voice, wisdom, and opportunities already in your hands. Welcome to Unmute the Mic, where real conversations matter. They're relevant, empowering, authentic, lasting, and legacy building. I'm Dr. Rita Reneé, and this is where we talk about coming off mute, communicating with clarity, and using your voice with intention. Now, today's conversation is stop asking for permission to use your voice. So let's get into it. When permission seeking does not look like permission seeking, sometimes permission seeking does not look like, can I have permission? It sounds like, what do you think? It sounds like, do you think I should? It can sound like, I was thinking about doing this, but I'm not sure. There is nothing wrong with seeking wisdom and asking someone that you trust for advice. Wise counsel can save us from unnecessary mistakes. But the problem begins when you already know what you need to do, and you just keep asking people until someone gives you the answer that makes you feel safe. And there's a difference between seeking wisdom and surrendering your responsibility. At some point, you have to make the decision. You can receive advice from 10 people, but none of them can live with the outcome for you, the outcome that's going to happen for you. And that's your responsibility. So why do we keep waiting? And sometimes we ask for permission because making our own decision feels risky. Sometimes someone else tells us what to do. We can blame them if it doesn't work out. But when we decide for ourselves, you also accept the outcome that belongs to you. And that can feel uncomfortable, right? But leadership requires it for us to move forward so we can grow. It requires us using our voice. And you cannot completely unmute while requiring everyone else around you to approve of what you say. So you have to have an idea, but somebody else speaks first so you can stay quiet. You need to stop doing that. You may have a question, but you decide everybody else probably understands. And you may want to disagree, but nobody else is disagreeing. You may want to volunteer for the opportunity, but someone else looks more qualified. And you may want to apply, but you are not sure that anybody will choose you. Then somebody else will say the thing that you've been thinking and asking the question that you've been wanting to ask, applies the steps to move forward. And you're sitting there thinking, I could have done that. Yes, you could have. The question is, why didn't you? Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's insecurity. Sometimes it's a habit. Sometimes you're just still waiting for someone else to recognize you before you recognize yourself. You cannot build your next season around being discovered. There's a time when you have to raise your hand, introduce yourself, say, I'm interested, and put your name in the conversation before anyone thinks to invite you into it. That doesn't make you arrogant. It just means that you are participating in your own life. So where did you learn to wait? And I want you to think about it. Where did you wait or learn to wait to ask for permission? Maybe you grew up in an environment where children were expected to be seen and not heard. That's me. Maybe questioning an adult was considered disrespectful. Maybe that you learned being agreeable was the safest way to keep the peace. And maybe you enter a workplace or workspace where the safest thing was to keep your head down, do excellent work, and hopefully someone would notice you. And maybe you are in a relationship where expressing the different of opinion that you may have had created conflict. Those experiences can teach you to check the room before you even check yourself. You start asking, will they like this before it's true? You ask, will they be comfortable before asking, is this what I need? You ask, will they approach me before asking, is this aligned with who I am becoming? And over time, you can become accustomed to external approval that you stop trusting your own judgment. That is a dangerous place to be as a leader. And so, not every voice gets a vote. Sometimes you're not waiting for permission from people who are currently in your life. You can still be trying to prove something to a parent, a former spouse, a teacher, a previous boss, or old friend, someone who once told you what you could not do. They move on. They don't even take consideration of your opinion. You are still hearing, who do you think you are? You are still hearing, that's too much. Or maybe you're hearing, people like us don't need that. Or you need to be realistic. At some point, you have to decide, whose voice are you going to give authority over your future? Not every voice deserves a vote. And that includes voices that you have carried for years. So, prepared doesn't always mean approved. And that's the difference between being prepared and being approved. You may be completely prepared for something and still not receive the validation you expect. And you may be qualified and still get rejected to make a strong presentation. And someone will still choose somebody else, set a healthy boundary, and somebody will still get upset. Or your voice clearly is being misunderstood. My point is, you can do all these things right and still not be included and still not be selected. Using your voice doesn't guarantee agreement. If your different of opinion comes about, don't stop speaking because you're being authentic. Your definition of confidence is, I will speak once everybody knows that what I'm saying is not meant to harm them. As long as they understand me, then you're willing to contribute. But your responsibility is not to control every interpretation of what people think, or interpretation of what you're saying to them. Your responsibility is to communicate clearly, honestly, and responsibly as best as you can. And then this will prevent you to deciding for them. You let them decide what they're going to do with it. And then stop taking your words back. There's another way that we can mute ourselves. And when we speak, then immediately we take all the words back. And you say what you mean, and then you spend 10 minutes explaining because someone else looks uncomfortable. You set a boundary, then you soften it. You state that your fee, whatever the offer requires, that you negotiate it, and then you start justifying it. You make a recommendation, then you say, but that's just my opinion. That is still permission seeking. Say what you mean. Make sure you're being responsible. Make sure you're being fair, and then give the sentence room to stand. Let it just sit there. You don't have to justify it. So stop rescuing people, rescuing their reactions so that they can feel comfortable. And here's three questions I want you to ask yourself before seeking permission. Here's what I want you to do. The next time that you feel yourself looking for someone else authority to make a decision for you, I want you to do this first. Number one, Do I actually need permission or do I just need courage? Because there is a situation where permission is required, right? Like in your workplace, you have policies, organizations have procedures, contracts have requirements, and responsibilities have boundaries. But there are also situations where nobody is stopping you except you. So you need to know the difference. Secondly, what information do I need still to make a responsible decision? Maybe you generally need more information. That's fine. Get the information. Do not use I need more information as an endless hiding place. At some point, you have to have enough to make a decision. And then third, if nobody applaud the decision, would I still believe it was the right decision for me? Would I still submit the application if nobody told me that I was ready? Would I still set the boundary if the other person became disappointed? Would I still pursue my opportunities if someone questioned whether I belong there or not? Your answer tells you how much authority you have in giving somebody else other than yourself to make choices for you. So just watch your language. Listen to the way that you introduce your decisions to other people. There's a difference between I'm wondering if I could do this and I've decided to. There's a difference between would it be okay if and I am available for this and I'd like to be considered. All of those are two different ways that people will see you when you have that language. There's a difference between asking for information and asking someone to authorize your existence. You may discover that you're asking for permission in places where only you need to communicate is a straight answer. That's all you need to do. So build self trust. One of the most important things that you can develop in the ability to trust yourself is self trust. Self trust does not mean believing you will always get everything right. You will make no mistakes, right? Because you will make mistakes. You will change your mind. You will make decisions, and that later you realize that probably wasn't the best decision. But self trust means believing in that very thing, even in that moment, that decision, even if it doesn't work the way that you expected, you are capable of learning and adjusting and recovering and making another decision. That changes everything. You no longer need certainty before you move forward. You need enough clarity for the next step. You no longer need everybody to understand. You just need to understand why you are making that decision. You no longer need someone else to tell you that you're ready. You need to be honest. Need to be honest about, did I prepare for this opportunity? And then move on. So your action steps I want you to do is, for some of you, your next step is just simple. Send the email, make the call, submit the application, ask the question, set the boundary, introduce yourself, and tell someone you are interested. Share the idea. And there may not be a dramatic moment. There simply may be a decision that you are no longer going to wait for someone else to tell you that you are allowed to participate. I want to finish this sentence, right? I want to share my opinions. I want to contribute. So this is how you do it. Use this sentence, and I want you to finish it. I've been waiting for permission to, you fill in the blank. And then ask yourself, who am I waiting on? I want you to write the name down and put it somewhere, okay, so you can have it. And then ask, do they actually have the authority to make this decision for me? Your 72-hour action is to take one responsible step towards the thing that you have been waiting to do, not 10 steps, one. Do not spend the next 72 hours creating another plan for something that you already know that you need to do. Just take the step. So, before we close, I want you to remember three things. First, seeking wisdom and surrendering responsibility are not the same thing. Second, not every choice deserves a vote in your future. And then third, sometimes you do not need more permission. You just need enough courage to take the next step and be responsible for it. Powerhouse, there will always be people with opinions about your choices. Listen to wisdom, consider responsible counsel, honor the commitments that you've already made, and then remember that you still have a life to lead. You cannot keep handing the microphone over to everyone else and wondering why you cannot hear yourself. Sometimes unmuting means recognizing that nobody took your voice from you. In this particular moment, you are simply remembering that I have a voice and now I'm allowed to use it. So stop waiting for that invitation. You've already been preparing and you're ready and you're becoming. And so the mic is on, your voice matters, and now it's time to unmute. I'm Dr. Rita Reneé, and this has been Unmute the Mic, where real conversations matter, relevant, empowering, authentic, lasting, and legacy building. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.